Here's your quote for today. What you are not changing, you're choosing. And, it took me so long to personally realize that the majority of things that were going wrong in my life, the majority of things that I was frustrated with and I wasn't happy with were things that I was choosing to be there, whether that was relationships with people, whether it was procrastination or laziness on projects and things that I wanted to do, advancement in my career, things like that. I decide what my priorities are, and those are the things that are going to influence the outcome of my life, right? So if I am not choosing to be disciplined and to live a life that I deem successful, then that's on me. If I'm allowing other people to be in my life to influence me that aren't influencing me positively, that are negatively impacting my life, that are causing tension and strife and hardship, that's on me. I'm choosing those people. What you are not changing, you're choosing. So today, kind of take a look at what those things are in your life. It can be as minimal as the decisions you make on a day-to-day basis on whether or not to get up early enough to be able to go work out, or to get up early enough to work on whatever projects you might be working on before you go into your professional career. Maybe it's the people that are around you that are influencing you. Maybe it's even toxicity with family and trust me, I know this one, that you have to get away from and take a break from those people in order to not only live a better life, but to kind of break that long history of family toxicity that might be there. So there are 1,000 things that this quote could impact for you today, but it's all for nothing if you don't make those actions and change those behaviors. Again, what you are not changing, you're choosing. So it's on you. Progress over complacency. All right, welcome to the Monday edition of the Batmandrew Podcast. And today we are finally wrapping up the last 5 or 6 years recap of my life, going from 2019 to 2024. And 2024 was finally a fucking good year. Did it have its hardships? 100%. Sure. Did it have its struggles? Yep. Was it expensive? Fucking yes, it was. But there were some amazing highlights. And so the first one, before I start anywhere, I've got to mention that 2024 brought the 10-year wedding anniversary for my wife and I. How the fuck she put up with me for so long is beyond my knowledge. But listen, I gotta tell you, I have the greatest wife. She's such a good mother, but she takes care of us. She does everything that we need to. Honestly, the success I've had in my management career has come because she has been my foundation and my rock through the whole time. And as the last 4 years we approached parenthood and had a child, and man, she's such a good mom. I'm very fortunate. So 10 years with her. Nice. Congratulations, Scarlett. I'm glad it was the best 10 years of your life by far, I've got to assume. So definitely the highlight of the year there for sure. And so a couple of things though that kind of took place this last year, and ultimately what led up to this podcast. So if you've listened to the podcast, you know that in 2019, work, I was working at Mazzio's, made me have to transfer locations and take on more responsibility that I wasn't comfortable with, and I had told them no, but they made me do it anyways. History has, the ability to repeat itself. And so in 2024, I was having a lot of success with work. I was really enjoying my job and really enjoying my team. But there were a couple of district managers that had quit. And, that happens. And sometimes you get asked to to help with extra markets and stuff like that. And you know what? Like, again, I'm a team guy. And so they asked me to pick up a couple of stores in the Wichita area. I said, you know what? I can do that. Primarily because I could drive there and back the same day. Wasn't going to add a whole lot of additional travel to my schedule, and I was still going to be able to try to balance out home and work. And then once they made arrangements for the upper half of Kansas, literally a week later, the DM who was going to oversee that quit. And so they came to me and said, hey, can you also help oversee Kansas, Manhattan area, places like that up there in northern Kansas? Can you help oversee that while we look for a district manager? Now, if you listen to what I had to say in a couple episodes ago, Mazzio's told me the same thing. Hey, just oversee it. We're actively looking to hire someone. And it was months and months later before they actually ever found someone. So I said, can I think about it? Because Manhattan, in that area is roughly about like 6 hours away from home. And at the time, I already had like 18 or 19 stores, including what I was picking up in Wichita, which would have spanned over 4 different states. And so I came back and I said, look, I've never said no before in my life to this company, but it's just a lot of extra work. I just don't know. It's not that I'm not willing to do the work. It's just the sacrifice it'll take away from home and family. And also, Kansas City, who had 3 or 4 DMs in that market, is only 2 hours away from Manhattan. And so I said no. And my regional said, hey, I respect that. I appreciate it. We'll figure something out. And then, fucking hell, the next day they called me and said, we're going to have to actually ask you to go ahead and oversee it. We'll work right away to get a DM in there. And so I took over the northern part of Kansas, the Manhattan area. And, I was thankful I did, on one hand, because we were opening a new store up there, and the managers that were there needed some additional support. They needed some love. They needed some help. And we had built a structure in Oklahoma that really allotted and helped to give that support. So on one hand, I was grateful that we did it for the managers that were up there in Manhattan, but it just, the amount of time I had to spend away from home, it just got to me. So fast forward a couple of months after I took it over, they finally hired a DM. Great. But then we went through training, and then once the DM took over, I kind of washed my hands of it. But shortly after is when we went on our family vacation. And we took a family vacation this last year to Alaska. We took a Disney Alaskan cruise, and it was amazing. It was so beautiful up there. The Disney cruise experience was amazing. It was the first time that our little boy had an opportunity to be able to go through anything Disney, and he enjoyed it. He was terrified of the characters, though. He told me that, Dad, he said the characters like Mickey on TV is like this big, but like in real life with the outfit, he's like 7 foot tall. And so terrified Grayson a little bit, but he ultimately had an amazing time. Around the going on the cruise and coming home from the cruise, I won't share the details because it's not my information necessarily to share, but my wife's father had gotten some news health-wise, and there were some complications on the way back from the cruise, and it really was difficult for the family to get past. But I will tell you, if there's anything that I've learned about my wife's family, is that they are resilient, and that they're strong, and that they're capable, and that they figure shit out. And that's exactly what they did. And I hope in the process I was able to help with that. But ultimately, shit happens, and when it does, my wife's family has a tendency of making the best out of any of the situations, and always staying positive and keeping an upbeat attitude. So we had some issues on the way home with some of the health of my father-in-law, but it still didn't take away from, pardon the pun, but the magical experience that we had on the Disney cruise. It really was an amazing time. We road tripped to the cruise. So the cruise departed out of Vancouver, Canada. So we decided to drive from Oklahoma City to Vancouver. It was 2 days, roughly about 30-ish hours one way. But I wanted to be able to see parts of the country that I've never seen before. And then traveling through, I would tell you this, Wyoming is the most fucking boringest state I've ever seen in my entire life. But there were a couple really pretty parts that were just beautiful to be able to drive through and see. And then we also drove through Salt Lake City, hitting Utah. We also drove through Oregon and Idaho and Washington, obviously. So road tripped it. Grayson, being 3 years old at the time, did a pretty good job of being in the car that long. But it was such a great experience. When we were in Washington on the way there, we stayed at a 80s themed Airbnb, which was really cool. It was like a throwback in time. And so honestly, just a great experience. That was part of what went into a super expensive year, but that was the fun part. Our well pump at our house and our engine in our car also went out in 2024. But, again, you just figure shit out, right? Is it stressful? Sure. But, at the end of the day, what are you going to do? You got to get it done. So, a couple of things there that kind of added to a little bit of stress this year. But ultimately, between the financial situations, between work, all of it contributed to the ultimate goal of getting to where I'm at now, right? So, I ended up leaving Rally House because, again, I will tell you this. When I went through the interview process with Insomnia, I had my first interview with the recruiter the day I went on vacation. And I told her, I said, hey, if we can get the next interview done in the next couple of days, that'd be great. I could do it while I was traveling. So I'm in Salt Lake City, and I'm doing my second interview with who is now my regional. And I let her know the situation. I said, hey, we're going on family vacation, a cruise. There's a couple of days I can't do it because I'll be at sea. But if I can, maybe schedule the final interview that they wanted to do on one of the port days. And she said, no, don't worry about it. Just we'll wait till you get back. Enjoy your time with your family. Be on vacation. Enjoy it. And I said, okay. I said, I appreciate that. So they said, we'll call you a week from Monday. We'll set up the final interview. Perfect. All right. Awesome. So, because that's the day that we got off the cruise and we were heading home. And so I had, on one hand, a company that wanted me to come work, who was willing to go ahead and wait a little bit for me to complete the interview process, and respect the time with my family. And on the other hand, I am out in the middle of the fucking ocean on a Saturday morning. And if you've ever been on a cruise, you know that cell phone service is spotty at best. Normally you don't get it, but my phone went off and I was like, oh, I actually have service. And I looked, and it was a work message from work, and a text message from work asking me to follow up on something that, one, wasn't in my scope of work, but two, was so irrelevant while I was on vacation. But because I am who I am, I went down, paid for the Wi-Fi package for the day so that I could do what work asked me to do. Followed up, sent the follow-up email saying, hey, just want to let you know, here's the follow-up that you asked for. If you need anything else, I will be off vacation next Wednesday. Follow up with me then. And whatever, and again, I'm not going to say what the follow-up was because it was stupid. But this follow-up was, sorry, I had an alarm going off on my camera. This follow-up was obviously so important that we had to bother me when I was on vacation for. But when I sent the follow-up, I didn't even get a thank you or, hey, I appreciate it, or even... Listen, I'm sure I'll make a video about this eventually, but I hate the thumbs up emoji. I would have even took a thumbs up emoji to the email I sent as an appreciation for working while I was on vacation, for doing something that wasn't in my scope of work, but I still did it anyways. And so when I didn't get it, and again, I don't need praise. I just would have loved a little bit of appreciation. It made my decision pretty easy. So when I got back, I had my final interview. They offered me the position. I took it. And I had posted something on LinkedIn several months ago. But I instantly thought about it at that moment. That there is a difference between showing appreciation to employees to keep them from leaving versus showing appreciation to employees to make them want to stay. And it's the difference between being reactive versus proactive. And, of course, I got all the questions when I left, like, why are you leaving? Why are you doing this? And I kept everything as professional as I could during that time. And even now, I'm not trying to be unprofessional. Look, I loved my time at Rally House. I just love my family more, and I needed that balance, and I needed to make change. And so here I am, working for a great company, living a much better work-life balance, but still busting my ass. I still want to move up. I still want to advance. I have aspirations to move up in my professional career. So here are those opportunities for me, right? But it doesn't have to come at a sacrifice. And so, in fact, walking in right now. Come here, bud.
I just wanted.
It's okay. Come here. Come here. This is why I do what I do. Do you see yourself?
Yeah.
Can you wave? Say hi to people. Say hi. Don't be silly. The weirdo. All right. Hey, where are we going today?
To the museum.
To the dinosaur museum. I know. That's so exciting. All right. Go back in there. I'll be there in a minute. Okay. So, you've got to decide what your priorities are in life, and for me, it's that little guy. It's my wife. It's my family, and that's what led to the change in 2024 for me. It's what led to me deciding I was going to be happy, because I wasn't happy. I wasn't happy at work. I wasn't happy at home, and I knew that change needed to be made. One of my big aspirations in life is to, I guess, really create content, photography, videography, to do something cool, something fun. And, this podcast, again, I've said it before, it's more to document my journey along the way, but to hope to be able to spread some of the things that I've learned and be helpful to people who I know are probably struggling and going through the same stuff. But for me, my number one aspiration and goal that I have creatively is I want to write and direct my own movie, and I'm in the process of it. I've been wanting to do this goal for years, but I finally have 5 minutes to myself to be able to work on it, and I've made some tremendous progress to it. And at this whole thing, look, I will tell you, the number one thing that you need to make sure you remember is the fact that right now, in this moment, yes, your priorities, if you're like me, should be your family, should be your kids, should be your wife, your spouse, whatever. It should be maintaining, keeping up with being able to pay your bills and support your family and all that kind of stuff, right? Like, I get all that. But you also have to make time for yourself. And I think that there is something healthy about the fact that you also prioritize yourself. So whether it's being able to do something like a podcast, if it's being able to spend, maybe it's, what I do a lot to be able to get a little bit of time to myself. And I love the fact that my wife loves and appreciates it. All I got to do is tell her what I'm doing, and she's all for it. Is when I leave one of my stores, I will call her and say, hey, I'm on my way home. Do we need anything? Yes, no, whatever. All right, just to let you know, I'm not taking the highways. And that is her way of knowing that I am going to take my time, go the back roads, and just have a little bit of time to myself. So, trust me, there's nothing wrong with that. It's healthy to be able to have some time for yourself and to work on things for you. So, again, that was my 2024. I just wanted to do what made me happy. And that's what I'm doing. I'm very grateful for the journey it took to get here. Even more grateful for the people that are in my life that support me and that help me. And even more thankful for the people I cut out of my life the last few years that did not contribute to any of that. So, that's it. That's 2024 for me. I got one last video that's going to go over some of the other highlights over the last 5 or 6 years that weren't necessarily pertaining to me. And then also I got to talk about a couple of the big pieces of media, movies and games that came out, because I am all into fandom. So, so one last video recap, and then we'll kind of dig into what ultimately this podcast is going to be about. But that's me. So thanks for listening, everyone. I'll see you again, and we will, we'll have some fun. Thanks, guys.